Hey guys, welcome back to Learning from the City, and today we are going to read Ruby Holler chapters chapter 7 to 9. So let's get started. Doubts. Dallas and Florida crawled into their closets and lifted the cardboard covering the hole in the wall. "What do you think of those lunatics?" Florida whispered. "They seemed okay," Dallas said. "Better than the usual sort. They smelled a lot." "Yeah, well, those hoppers and cranbips and burgertons and those creepy Dree people all smiled too, until they got a dose of us." Jas was thinking about the trip to Kingadoon. He saw himself on the island in the ocean making a campfire. The waves were lapping in the distance. "What if these old lunatics are like that last pair?" Florida said. "That slimeball slave driver and his twitchy wife." "Maybe these two are different," Dallas said. "Doubt it. Maybe we should just get on that night train like we planned." "What about money?" Dallas said. "We need a little money." "We're never getting any money," Florida said. "If we wait until money falls into our laps, we're going to be here forever." "You look at that pamphlet," Dallas asked. "How does that Rutabago River look?" "Like a paradise," she said. "It's probably fake." "What's Kingadoon look like?" "Double paradise." "What's the catch?" Florida said. "What do you think is the real story behind these old people saying they're going to take us on these trips?" "They're not that old, and maybe there isn't any catch," Dad said. "And maybe there is," Florida said. "I hate it here, but I hate it worse going to these crazy people's houses and getting yelled at and scolded and told that we're loud and messy and stupid." I know it," Dallas said. "But maybe, yeah. You always say, but maybe. And it's never any better and it's usually worse. And I'm sick of it. I vote for the freight train." "Let's just look at those pamphlets one more time and think about it tonight," Dallas said. "Okay?" Later, Florida lay in bed listening to the wail of the freight train passing through Roxton. She thought about the old lunatics and about going to the river in a boat. She wanted to be in that boat on the river, but she wanted to be there with Dallas, not with the old man. She hated the thought of being separated from Dallas. She felt that the only reason they'd survived this long without turning into cowardly wimps or juvenile delinquents was because they'd had each other. In the room next door, Dallas counted the wheels of the train. He saw himself in the Kingadoon, wading barefoot along the shore. The sky was blue, the water was blue, the sun beamed down. Footprints on the sand. He whirled around, drew his sword. Chapter 8. Hansel and Gretel. Dallas and Florida were squashed in between Tiller and Sari Moray in the front seat of their old truck, bouncing along on the road out of a town. "Where exactly are you taking us?" Florida asked. "Ruby Holler," Tiller said. He turned to her when he answered the question, and she saw that he had a pleasant tan face and deep blue eyes. His hair was very white and sticking up places at the back of his head. Up close like this. He didn't look as old as Florida had first thought, but she wasn't going to trust his pleasant face. "And where exactly is Ruby Holler?" Florida said. Sari answered, tapping Florida's arm as she did so. "Down the road piece and then down another road back into the hills." Sari's hand Florida noticed was a little wrinkly, but the skin was so soft. Florida wasn't going to be fooled by soft-looking skin. Florida whispered to Dallas, "Those creepy dreeps lived up in the hills? Hope it's not the same hills." Dallas cringed, then closed his eyes and tried to picture other hills, rolling ones, green ones. "How come you're not going with each other on your trips?" Florida asked Sari, but it was Tiller who answered. "Now there's a good question," he said, glancing at Sari. He sounded a little grumpy. Florida thought he was probably going to be the first one to yell at them. Sari chattered all the way to Ruby Holler. Look at that, there rode a rabbit," she said, "and over there where we found a stray lamb." And on like that she went while Tiller kept his mouth shut and his eyes fixed on the red hat. Definitely something bugging him, Florida thought. As they pulled into a narrow dirt road, Sari said, "You are now entering Ruby Holler, the one and only Ruby Holler. Your lives are never going to be the same." "You don't have to exaggerate," Tiller said. Florida and Dallas stared out the window at the winding road ahead and at the tall leafy trees flanking the road and at the stretches of wild grass with blue and red and yellow flowers blooming in thick lumps. "See over there," Siri said, "bare blush, and over there tickle violets." When they got out of the truck, Florida pulled Dallas aside. "I think these two are a little bit off their rockers," she said. "Look at this place," Dallas said. "You never seen anything like this. You never seen anything so amazing. All these trees, all these hills. Is that creek over there? Is that a creek over there?" "Dallas, don't you go falling for sweet talk and trees and creeks. We've got to be ready to flee for the hill and catch that train, you hear?" I hope you don't mind the sleeping arrangement," Sari said as they stepped into the front porch. "Where are you putting us?" Fred asked. "In the hog pen?" "The hog pen?" Terry said. "I'm afraid we don't have a cockamamie hog pen. I suppose we could build you one, though, if you wanted." "You got a snake pit?" "A snake pit," Taylor said. "You hankering after a slimy snake pit?" "No," Florida said. "Don't mind that sagging porch," Sari said, leading the way inside, "and our place is kind of small." "I know." She paused to smooth a quilt covering a chair. You'll be upstairs." "In the attic," Florida said. "You got a dusty cobwebby attic up there?" Sari motioned to the wooden ladder. "It's a loft. See, up there it's kind of open to everything down below. I hope you don't mind all our kids slept there together. I'm sorry we don't have separate rooms for you." Florida and Dot scrambled up the ladder into the light, airy loft. Windows overlooked the trees outside and the deep blue mountains beyond. There were 4 beds in the room, each covered with a brightly colored quilt. Hundreds of patches of red and orange and yellow and brilliant green stitched together. Dallas gazed out at the trees. "It's like a tree house up here, a tree house with beds." "Up here, is this where you mean?" Florida called down to Sari. "In this big, huge place? Or is there a cupboard? You going to put us in a cupboard? I thought you might sleep in those beds." "Well, not all of them. 2 of them, I hope." "That's okay," Sari said. "I hope you'll be comfortable up there." Dad sank into one of the loft beds. "Florida, this is like floating on a cloud. Try one." Florida stretched out on another bed. "Probably has bugs in it," she said, jumping up again. "What's the catch? Are they going to fatten us up like Hansel and Gretel and stick us in the oven?" Dallas Florida, could you please come down here? See? Florida said, I bet they're going to put us to work now. We're probably going to have to dig a well or something. Downstairs, Sarah and Taylor had laid the table with the yellow tablecloth. Spread across it with sliced ham, warm applesauce sprinkled with cinnamon, hot cornbread, and green beans. 4 places were set. It's a feast, Dallas saw, for kings and queens and very important people. You having company? We have to go outside now, Florida said. This is for us, Siri said, for the 4 of us. 2 of us and 2 of you. Florida turned to Dallas. See, she whispered, Hansel and Gretel don't eat too much. That night, Dallas fell asleep quickly and was dreaming about his favorite place, a sandy patch of earth beneath the leafy tree, with the curtain of branches dipping down all around him. It was not a place he'd ever seen except in his dreams. Dallas, Florida called, waking him. Don't you get too comfy. Tomorrow is probably when we find out the yuck part of this. Florida felt crabby and unsettled, as if it were her responsibility to stay on the alert. Dallas was falling under the spell of all those trees, so she was going to have to be extra ready. She didn't trust this idyllic-looking place or that old couple either. Dallas, she said, waking up again, even if this was a paradise, which is probably not, and even if you wanted to stay here forever, it's not going to happen. Those people are just going to get mad at us before you know it, and they'll have us back with the putrid trumpets before you can blink. So I say we just plan on getting that night train as soon as possible. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Des mumbled, rolling over and returning to his tree-sheltered dream. Florida tossed and turned and eventually dreamed about lizards and rats chasing her through the woods. She was running towards something in the distance, but she didn't know what it was. She didn't know what it was. She was running toward. And she didn't know why she was carrying a scrunched up cardboard box in her hand. All she knew was that she couldn't drop the box. The God, Chapter 9. Taylor was peering into the mirror beside the bed. I don't look 60 years old, do I? He said. Of course you don't, Siri said. He smoothed his hair with his hand. And still relatively handsome, he asked. Of course you are. You know that lady who was down here last month to buy some of our old cravings? That New York lady? I remember. You know what she said? She said I was a god. Siri put Vaseline on her hands and blew out her candle. And you believed her, you old coot, Siri whispered. Tear glanced over the window at the leafy branch tapping against the pans. We should send those kids back, he thought. Siri should come with me down the river to the Rutabaga, and then I should go with her searching for that stupid bird in Kangadoon. Maybe I'll suggest that to Siri in the morning. Maybe I will. So, in the next video, we are going to read chapter 10 to 13. Bye!